Hello world, it's Alex the Dev. I'm here to tell you not to press this button. However, you should totally press the subscribe button because that would help me out a lot, thanks. I'm actually here to talk about Button Pusher. The last video did okay and it was fairly well received. Thank you to the people that left me nice comments, by the way, I really do appreciate that. So I bring you exactly what I promised in the last video. Another project, another devlog. Let's not waste any time in the intro and get into it. Every month I post a written devlog on my website, but at the end of every year I try to do a sort of yearly review and set myself some goals for the year after. In 2021 I said I wanted 4 games. That may have been a little overkill. That's way too much! If you watched the last video, you know I spent the majority of the year working on Jelly Toss. It was a pretty big project after all. It was finished towards the end of the year, minus a few updates, but since I only had 1 game in the last few weeks of December, I thought why not spend a little bit of time trying to make another quick project before the year ends. It didn't take long before I had the idea to make Button Pusher. It was inspired by games like Dumb Ways to Die or WarioWare, but more focused on, you guessed it, buttons. Sadly, during December I had a lot to do. I had a couple of Jelly Toss updates to finish. I had to write up my big yearly post. I worked on a small Egghead update, which was one of my first games, and of course spent Christmas and New Year with the family. Safe to say I was pretty busy. I did manage to get this basic prototype put together, but it wasn't enough to release. When January rolled around, I quickly finished my remaining work and started on my new project. The concept was simple. You have a timer, you get instructions, you push the right button, not the wrong one, the right one, not the left one. No, not that one either. Just press the button you are told to press. Simple. Simples. Anyway, to begin with, there was only 3 sets of instructions in the game. Press a very specific button, press a certain button so many times, and press any button at all. But it needed a little more if I wanted to make it a challenge, so I put in the hold button for a certain amount of seconds, press nothing at all, no matter how irresistible those buttons look, do not press them, and one that makes you press 2 different colours, one straight after the other. I could have released it there, but it was still too simple. It needed more. Then it needed polishing up. So 1 more month.
1 more month.
That brings us to February. Here, the game really started to take shape. I added a main menu and of course added some nice icons. I moved the timer to the top of the screen. I just think it fits better up there. And I put ads in the game as well as made a game over screen. That comes with a random message where the game makes fun of you for losing. I just thought that was pretty funny. I also worked on randomizing the layouts of the buttons. Basically, it was the same number of buttons in the same spot every time. Where's the fun in that? It now chooses between 2 and 6 buttons with a couple of different layouts for each number. As you can see, I set this up by creating a few empty game objects that represent the locations. I then arrange them into different layouts and let the game pick a random one to use each level. It then puts a random button at the empty location. It also has to make sure the correct buttons spawn in. Setting this up was surprisingly fun and it's definitely satisfying seeing it in action. I also added some music, a couple of different tracks actually. There's some elevator style music on the main menu. It starts off quite calm, then when you press play it gets much more intense. I also made the pitch increase the further you get so that on the later levels you have the added pressure of a shorter timer and hectic music in the background. There's a few different tracks the game will cycle through so you don't have to listen to the same thing over and over. And finally, I added some sound effects which was pretty simple. All I really needed for this was a few button presses and a game over sound. Of course, alongside all this, I added some more levels, the most interesting one being the password level. Basically, you get given 4 digits, for example, 0000, don't sweat it, we all know that's the password to unlock your phone.
How does he know that?
Then you have to type those numbers into a keypad. It's a little different from the other levels and a little harder, but that's a good way to keep things interesting. I also added a skip button to the instructions screen just to make getting through the earlier levels a little bit faster. This also came with a new set of instructions telling you to skip this level. This is another interesting one since it is completed from the instructions screen rather than the game screen. We made a lot of progress in February. Surely the game is ready for release. Nope. There was still a few things missing. I had to fix a few small bugs and there was still some polishing up to do. I also had a few more ideas and tricks up my sleeve. I wanted 1 more month. So much for a short game. Around this time, I made a chart to help people understand my deadlines. This should come in handy. Basically, if I say a game will take around a week, expect it in a month. If I think a game will take a month, expect it in 2 to 3 months, and so on. It's surprisingly accurate. Anyways, in March, I actually got things finished up. I got the game released and available to download, but not before I give the game a little makeover. The buttons currently worked. I just thought there was a little dull. So I improved everything drastically. Here's a little before and after. This was the main menu, and now it looks like this. This was the settings screen, and now it looks like this. That's much better. Once I replaced the buttons, I had to play around with the UI to fit multiple screen sizes. Usually this is a pretty easy job. I've done it before in every other project, but this was my first landscape game. It was set up in a similar way, but there was a few small differences. I had to play around with some values and positioning until things looked right. And then finally, we released the game. What comes after release? A couple of updates. The first one was small. I noticed that the white button had a slightly lighter shadow than the other buttons. It just looked weird. I wouldn't call it game breaking, but it was definitely a minor visual bug. So I fixed that and added another button colour while I was at it, the black button, just so there's one more to press. After that came a second update. I added text-based levels. I wanted these in the game from when it was just a prototype. This was part of the original idea. Basically, you'd have a blue button and a red button. The red button would have blue text and the blue button would have red text. Sometimes it could even be in the right order. The instructions would then tell you to press a specific coloured text. It's one of the more confusing levels, but I like it that way. I'm an evil developer, what can I say? In the same month, towards the end, I uploaded the final update. This added the ability to remove ads, something that should probably be in there from the start. It's also something that every game needs and every developer needs if we want to keep the lights on. Monetization makes money. Alex, the devs, top tips. Monetization wasn't the only thing though. I added some more levels.
Again? Really?
This time there was a numbered base level which would assign random numbers to the buttons, and you either have to click the lowest or the highest. The numbers are between 1 and 10. I was going to make it completely random numbers, but I feel like that'd have been a little too unfair. Okay, maybe I'm not that evil after all. The next level was similar, but instead of numbers, it changed the size of the button, so you would have to click the smallest or the largest button. Another simple concept, but it can be tricky on the later levels when the timer is applying pressure. And that was it, the game was officially finished. I can come back and add more levels and more buttons in the future, but for now, it will do. There's plenty of levels, some more complicated than others. It looks nice, especially compared to where it started, and even though it didn't take a week, and then it didn't take a month, and then it didn't take 2 months, it was still a pretty short project, at least for me. If you like a challenge and you think you can follow instructions well, then try hitting the download button. That's your first instruction. Then hit the red button, and then see how long you can last and how many buttons you can press or not press. There might even be a secret ending to find which could put you on a secret leaderboard. Little tip, it involves holding the play button from the main menu. The link to download this game will be at the top of the description as always, and once again, as a thank you for watching my videos and supporting my work, here's a code to remove ads in Button Pusher. One for Android and one for iOS. You know the drill, each code can only be used once, and if you claim the code, be nice and leave a comment, let people know. Until next time, peace.